Welcome to a brief history of CD Projekt Red. CD Projekt Red are most known for their Witcher franchise and their pro-consumer outlook. They have shipped more than 25 million games and own a digital distribution service known as GOG, selling games with no DRM attached. They are currently worth $1.6 billion, which is more than Capcom. It is hard to believe they've only shipped 3 full games, and now with 600 plus employees working on 2 new projects, with their new car game Gwent just around the corner, I thought we would take a look back and see how this all begun. CD Projekt Red's co-founders actually got started by cracking copies of video games and selling them at markets when they were both just in high school. They became good friends because of their love for games, though they were hard to get your hands on in Poland at the time, as there was no copyright laws for games in the country. Consoles were non-existent, with PC games being the only ones available. Lewinsky said he saved up to buy a CD burner and spent all of his money and some so he could get his hand on some more games. After finishing high school, they founded their own company called CD Projekt, with very little money using their friend's flat as rent-free office space, wanting to conduct business legitimately, and getting away from pirating games. They became one of the first importers of games from US retailers and selling them at local stores. They decided to start localizing games for the Polish market. After a little while, they were working with the developers such as 7 Stars and Linux Longsoft, but their first big localization was when BioWare and Interplay wanted them to do a Polish localization of Boulders Gate. They hired well-known Polish voice actors and redesigned the cover of the game. It sold about 18,000 copies on its first day, and 50,000 in a year. This was considered a success because it was much higher than average sales in the country. After the deal, they continued to work with Interplay, collaborating on a PC port of the Boulders Gate sequel Dark Alliance. But there was a setback with the port after 6 months, with Interplay experiencing financial problems and in turn cancelling the port. After Dark Alliance was cancelled, they wondered if the company should continue to localize games or become a game developing studio, as they still own the code for Dark Alliance, so they decided to make their own game. They ended up getting the license for a game based on a Polish novel saga, which is based around a monster hunter named Geralt. According to Lewinsky, they had no idea how to develop a game at the time. They formed a subdivision of the company called CD Projekt Red in March 2002. They made a demo for their new game, which was a role-playing game with a top-down perspective similar to Dark Alliance and Diablo. They pitched the game to a number of publishers without success. Looking back at the demo, they called it a piece of crap, and see why it wasn't picked up, and the demo was abandoned. According to CD Projekt, the development team had different ideas and lacked overall direction. As a result, they returned to the drawing board. The team, unfamiliar with game development, spent 2 years organizing production. They received assistance from BioWare, who licensed their Aurora game engine to the company. They also helped promote the game at the 2004 E3 Expo in LA, giving them a space in the booth next to Jade Empire. They ended up growing the original 15-man development team to 100. They made a deal with Atari, and they agreed to publish the game for them. The game spent 5 years in development. Lewinsky stated that the game only came together just before the release. It finally came out in 2007 to positive reviews for its strong characters and world building. Due to its success, there was a console port planned, and development of a sequel began almost immediately. The team began the design work for The Witcher 2 and experimented with consoles to develop a new game engine called the Red Engine. The development of Witcher 2 was halted when the team began work on the console port called the White Wolf. They collaborated with the French studio Widescreen Games for the console, but it entered development limbo after Widescreen Game demanded more manpower, money, and time to develop the title, complaining that they were not being paid. According to CD Projekt Red, they paid them more than their own staff, and the team cancelled the project. Unhappy with the decision, Atari demanded that they repay for the funding of the console port, but they ended up making a deal so they would be the North American publishers of The Witcher 2. The dispute over the White Wolf was costly, and the company almost faced bankruptcy, with the financial crisis of 2007 and 2008 being a contributing factor. To stay afloat, they decided to focus on The Witcher 2 with the Red Engine. The company also started GOG in 2008. GOG stands for Good Old Games, and is a digital distribution service like Steam, that has a couple of unique policies like no regional or price restrictions, and no DRM. In 2013, GOG was thought to have a market share of around 15%. The Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings spent 3.5 years in development and was released in 2011, with critical praise, selling more than 1.7 million copies at launch. The game was also later ported to the Xbox 360 in an enhanced edition. After the success of the Assassins of Kings, CD Projekt Red wanted to develop an open world game of quality similar to their other games, and the company wanted to add features to avoid criticism that it was The Witcher 2.5. They decided to push the game's graphical boundaries, releasing only on the PC and the 8th generation of consoles, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. This triggered debate within the team, some who wanted to release the game on the older consoles to maximize profit. The team started development on a second title while making The Witcher 3, called Cyberpunk 2077, and released a teaser trailer in January 2013, stated the release date as, "when it's ready." It is thought to be released sometime next year or in 2019. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt took 3.5 years to develop and cost over $81 million to make. It had a couple delays and ended up being released in May 2015 to critical praise and sold 6 million copies in 6 weeks. The game has won over 800 awards, including 251 Game of the Year awards. CD Projekt Red also won Developer of the Year. They released 15 free content downloads and 2 expansions, Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine. Some people even giving Blood and Wine a mention for Game of the Year of 2016. The studio released 2 other Witcher games around the same time as the third game, a board game called Witcher Adventures, and an online battle arena called Witcher Battle Arena. They expanded the company twofold, and at E3 2016 announced that they would be making the card game Gwent from the third Witcher into a standalone game, which is currently in a public beta. They have stated that they don't plan to make another Witcher game, but don't rule out that they may return to the universe at some time. If you haven't played any of their games, if nothing else, play The Wild Hunt, as it is a fantastic game. I hope you found this interesting, and thanks for watching. You guys know the deal. If you're logged in and can be stuffed, like, comment, subscribe, and if not, have a nice day.